Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, Fumi. Good morning, Dr. Adeboroye, for your invaluable support and the platform you just spoke about. Thank you, other distinguished speakers, guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here this morning. Um, I'm a national, I'm a patriot. I believe in economic development advocacy. And as if you see my background, I've spent a lot of energy, working life, advocating for economic growth, both intra Nigeria, intra Africa, and global. And so when I see a force like Fumi is making, I always do my little bit to support it because nothing happens in the world. People make things happen, and it requires sacrifice, like the type Fumi is making. It's not easy to convene these meetings because you are begging everybody, beg this person, appeal to this person. Even those who are going to be beneficiaries at first, you have to beg them to join the conversation. So, Fumi, congratulations for keeping keeping your focus. It's not easy what you're doing, and I want to thank all those who are supporting you, both those who are here today and those who are not there. I think the idea of having an African Caribbean product exhibition or market development, alignment and standardization, it's a very wonderful one. Again, it's indicative of the overall philosophy behind franchising. One basic philosophy about franchising is an understanding that you cannot do it alone. You need to cooperate with other people. You need to partner. You need to leverage on your competencies and capacities. And each person has something to bring that will bring mutual benefit and accelerate achievement of goals that you alone may never achieve if you are working on your own. I think that's the concept. It is the principal concept. Meant you have that mindset that everybody has some capacity. Everybody also has some deficiency. Nobody is ever fully sufficient. So how can I bring my sufficiency to align with your insufficiency? And then we can have something both of us can benefit from. So it's therefore very exciting when I had this initiative to bring Caribbean brothers and sisters into this conversation. The greatest challenge we have in Nigeria and in Africa, again, let me not talk too much about Africa. Let me speak more about Nigeria, where I have a full understanding of how things go, is that we are deficient in policy articulation when it comes to economic growth and development. Also, when you come from a country that has been drinking crude oil and harvesting money sometimes without adequate rigor and adequate effort, it becomes difficult for people to think deeply and think extensively. One of some of the jobs people do in the private sector, like what Fumi is doing, must actually should have derived from government policy. Government makes the policies and the private sector runs with them. But sometimes there's inefficient planning. And first, there's no economic orientation, no economic philosophy. And that's where what creates the problem. So you are trying to get government to see what they ought to have seen, because that's what economic planners do. Africa knows and Nigeria knows as a classic example about its insufficiency. Nigeria should know about its competencies. Nigeria should know about its comparative areas of comparative and competitive advantage. Nigeria should have an understanding that it has an economic growth plan, GDP growth, and all the other parameters of growth. The question is, how do you achieve those growth? What are the patterns? What are the possibilities for you to garner participation of people to bring these goals to achievement? So often there is not enough focus on this, and we seem to put more focus on the known lines, where we think big money can be made by government, and without really considering that it is the combination of the different activities that all nationals, all citizens participating, that is economically driven, that creates the gross domestic product. GDP would not grow just by oil or some level of governmental expenditure, building roads and bridges. These are facilitators, but we need to say, how do we achieve our economic output and at the same time create leverages? Nigeria and Africa has problems of poverty. We have problems of high unemployment. We have the misery index is high. We have low energy. We have so many things that are deficit. And everybody thinks that the only way we can solve it is by budgeting, by making money available in the budget. It will never work. We will never generate enough public funding to be able to provide the adequate, even infrastructure that we need, not to talk about the linkages that will promote manufacturing, exploitation of agricultural products, and transforming them into finished goods. So this is why a policy attitude of promoting private sector investment is key. Secondly, understanding what are those elements of elements that can promote accelerated industrial growth, accelerated agricultural development, and other sectors of the economy. I think that today, Minister of Trade and Industry, for example, should be focusing a lot on issues of knowledge transfer, issues of technology transfer, issues of franchising, so that we can leverage what we have and benefit from what we do not have through partnerships and orientation. I remember in 1997, when I had to do the management buyover of Pfizer Inc. shares in the Pfizer Products PLC, the 60% Pfizer Inc. It was the first time that policy, that kind of thing was being done for multinational being bought over by management. There was no governmental support anywhere. There was even not available department in any government agency that could offer help or support. And as we speak today, I do not know if the government guy is here. First of all, Fumi said he was called away to Aso Rock or some government place. This is always what happens. Government seems to be a reluctant partner that we need to drag into discussions on how to grow the economy, on how to exploit opportunities that exist. So I think my own call here today is that there is the insufficient policy focus in these kind of things of creating some new ways of growing our economy. Franchising and all forms of partnerships represent to me a major area where we should put more official focus. Seek out those products, services, ideas, technologies that we may not be able to produce sufficiently, and see how we can partner with those who have sufficient capacity and technology to make those products and services available to us. And also seek on those products, services, technologies that we have expertise, that we have comparative or competitive advantage, and then actively seek how we can get these products out of Nigeria into other markets. It should be a great government policy. Last year, I did, as chairman of the African Economic Summit, and we're talking about intra-Africa trade. It will surprise everybody. I'm not sure I'm saying anything new to the media. They know this as much as I know, if not more. It was difficult to get governments to participate. It was difficult to get Ministry of Trade. It was difficult to get Export Promotion Council. These are people who should fund this type of activity, because budget is where what should give motivation for the private sector. The money they budget in the ministries should be directed to stimulating trade, industrialization. But it's not happening. I don't know whether it's at the same level in every other country, but my position then as chairman of the African Economic Summit showed me that this lack of interest is cross-cutting. So focus will be, and I think the media should join in this campaign to get the government to understand that no economy will grow except investments come into that economy. Because it is the investments that create businesses. Businesses create jobs. Jobs create wealth, and wealth eliminates poverty. So if you cannot understand that, then it's going to be difficult for us to achieve the kind of economic growth. Dr. Adebore was talking about catching up. How are you catching up people who are moving and you are not even, your own speed is absolutely too low, too slow? When will you catch up with them? They are not stagnant. So catching up is a very difficult thing until everybody begins to play together. So my call is that today, Nigerian and African and Caribbean governments should devote sufficient time in working with private sector entrepreneurs, businessmen, idea generators, to work with them to achieve and fill these gaps that exist. In many countries, there's shortage of everything. And sometimes we do not know how to procure them. If we're able to put a search on starting, for example, using Caribbean, take the Caribbean nation, for example, we have similarity, so much of similarity. Our food, our fashion, our cultural entertainment, you know, we have a lot of things in common. So we can even look at what can Nigeria and Caribbean nations do, you know, because they understand us better than maybe the Europeans or the Americans. They can deal with our issues just better than those ones can deal with our issues. What are the things we can give to them? What are the things they can give to us? And then do the matchmaking, as Fumi is trying to do. Matchmaking, not just speaking. You know, have exhibitions, get people and incentivize them, including funding and other support. So there is a lot for the policymakers in Africa to do to promote this low-hanging fruit of bridging the gaps that we have in our economic development paradigm. Thank you.